What you're about to hear is the story of the most beloved animal story ever told. The story of a boy raised by wolves, a panther and a bear, a tiger who kills for pleasure, and a python who is wiser than he seems. You think you know it. You grew up with it. Most of us did. The man who would write the Jungle Book was himself a kind of Mowgli, born into one world, transplanted into another, never quite at home in either. Rudyard Kipling was born on December 30th, 1865 on the campus of the Sir Jamset Jeejeebhoy School of Art in Bombay, in a building you can still visit today in Mumbai. His father, John Lockwood Kipling, was a sculptor and professor. His mother, Alice MacDonald, was, by all accounts, the most vivid woman in any room she entered. The Viceroy of India once said of her, "Dullness and Mrs. Kipling cannot exist in the same room." The Kiplings were not wealthy, but they were extraordinarily connected. Alice's sisters were married to two of the most famous Victorian painters, Burne-Jones and Poynter. Her nephew would become Prime Minister of Britain. The family that created Mowgli stood at the intersection of the British Empire's artistic and political life. Kipling's earliest memories were memories of India, of his Goan Portuguese ayah who took him to the fruit market, of his Hindu bearer who spoke a different language, of the blinding heat of Indian noon and the scented darkness of tropical nights. He walked hand in hand with an Indian herdsman at age 3, calling back to his mother, "Goodbye, I am going with him. He is my brother." His first language was not English. It was Hindustani, learned from the servants who cared for him daily. He wrote later, "So one spoke English, haltingly translated out of the vernacular idiom that one thought and dreamed in." The little boy thought in Hindustani. He dreamed in Hindustani. He was, in the most fundamental sense, an Indian child who happened to have been born to English parents. In October 1871, Rudyard Kipling was 5 years old, and his world ended. It was common practice for British families in India to send their children home to England at school age. The Indian climate was considered dangerous for British children. An English education was expected for an English future. And so Rudyard and his 3-year-old sister Trix were put on a ship. Their parents stayed in India. The children were not told what was happening until they arrived. Kipling wrote in his autobiography, 6 decades later, "I had no knowledge of what was before me." He and Trix were deposited with a couple in Southsea, Portsmouth, Captain Price Holloway and his wife Sarah. The house at 4 Campbell Road would be known for the rest of Kipling's life as the House of Desolation. Mrs. Holloway was methodically cruel. She questioned the boy minutely about his day and called him a liar when his exhausted answers contradicted each other. She told him he was morally defective. She branded him publicly as a deceiver. She told him he would go blind. For 6 years, Kipling lived like this, under psychological stress, so severe it became physical. He began to actually lose his vision, not from any organic cause, but from pure distress. He developed what we would today recognize as a breakdown. He was finally rescued in 1877 when his mother arrived unannounced from India and found him walking the streets in a daze, so damaged that he flinched when she raised her hand, not to strike him, merely in greeting. Kipling's biographer Harry Ricketts writes that in the Mowgli stories, Shere Khan, who hunts the boy throughout, represents the malevolent would-be foster parent that Mowgli ultimately outwits and destroys. If that reading is correct, then Mrs. Holloway of the House of Desolation is the original tiger. And the Jungle Book is Kipling's lifelong fantasy of going back to that small boy in Southsea and telling him, "You will survive. You will learn the rules. You will face the tiger, and you will win." Kipling returned to India in September 1882, 16 years old, a school leaver too poor for Oxford. He stepped ashore in Bombay and felt everything return. Hindustani flooded back to him as he walked the streets. In Something of Myself, he called it a prince entering his kingdom. For 6.5 years, he worked as a journalist in Lahore, covering viceregal garden parties and plague outbreaks, interviewing princes and talking with beggars. He moved between the Anglo-Indian world of clubs and cantonment bungalows and the Indian world of bazaars and temples. Genuinely bilingual, genuinely at home in both, belonging fully to neither. He published short stories and poems at a pace that left his colleagues exhausted. By 1889, when he left India for the last time, he was 23 years old and already one of the most celebrated writers in Britain. In January 1892, Kipling married Caroline Balestier, sister of his closest friend Walcott, who had just died of typhoid. Henry James gave away the bride. The wedding was held in a London influenza epidemic so severe that, as Kipling noted dryly, the undertakers had run out of black horses and the dead had to be content with brown ones. On their honeymoon, their bank failed. They found themselves in Vermont, near Carey's family in Brattleboro. Kipling fell in love with the place, the silence, the snow, the clean, cold air. They rented a cottage for $10 a month. Their daughter Josephine was born in December 1892. In that winter, in that cottage, in Vermont's snow, Rudyard Kipling began to write about a jungle in central India. The house they built in 1893 they named Nalika, Hindi for jewel beyond price, after the Mughal pavilion inside Lahore Fort that Kipling had admired as a young journalist. He designed it himself to look like a ship with his study in the prow. Kipling worked every weekday from 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. In 4 years at Nalika, he wrote The Jungle Book, The Second Jungle Book, Captains Courageous, The Seven Seas, and began both Kim and the Just So stories. The most prolific years of his creative life. The most vivid, heat-soaked, animal-alive jungle stories in English literature were written by a short-sighted man sitting at a desk in Vermont, surrounded by maple trees, looking at the Connecticut River Valley through Tiffany glass. Arthur Conan Doyle visited Nalika in November 1894, the month The Jungle Book was published. He brought his golf clubs and gave Kipling a lesson in a field while, as Doyle wrote, the New England rustics watched from afar, wondering what on earth we were at, for golf was unknown in America at that time. The creator of Sherlock Holmes and the creator of Mowgli, in a snowy Vermont field. The Jungle Book was written for Josephine. Kipling inscribed her copy. This book belongs to Josephine Kipling, for whom it was written by her father, May 1894. The inscription was discovered in 2010, 116 years after it was written, in a house in Cambridgeshire. Josephine died in 1899, aged 6. Kipling was told she was getting better until he had recovered enough to bear the truth. He never returned to America. He never spoke of her in public again. Here's the first thing you probably do not know about The Jungle Book. It is not a novel. It is a collection of 7 short stories. And of those 7, only 3 are about Mowgli. The other 4 take place in the Bering Sea, in a garden in India, in the elephants' lines of the colonial army, and in a military camp. The second thing, The Jungle Book is only half of the Mowgli story. The second Jungle Book, published in October 1895, contains 5 more Mowgli stories, including the crucial final chapters in which Akela dies. Mowgli defeats the wild dog pack and ultimately leaves the jungle as a young adult. Most people have never read the second Jungle Book. Most adaptations, including the 1967 Disney film and the 1989 anime, compress and recombine elements from both books. Now, the characters. You think you know them, but the names tell you something Disney never will. Barely a single major character in The Jungle Book has an invented name. Kipling named them from Hindustani, the language he had dreamed in as a child in Bombay. Balu, simply the Hindi word for bear. Bagheera, tiger-colored, panther dark from the Hindi Bagh. Ka, the sound of a python's hiss. Akela, alone, in Hindi, the great solitary wolf. And Shere Khan, the Persian word for tiger combined with a Mongol title for ruler. Kipling was naming his villain after royalty, after emperors. He even named him after Sher Shah Suri, the historical Afghan emperor who once displaced the Mughal dynasty from Delhi. The most powerful man of his age, brought low by a boy with a burning branch. Kipling assembled his jungle from three sources: his father's 1891 book Beast and Man in India, a book called Seoni, Camp Life on the Satpura Range, written in 1877 by a civil servant and naturalist named Robert Armitage Sterndale, which gave Kipling his geography, his river names, his forest ecology, and the photographs and personal accounts of his friends the Hills, who had actually visited Seoni in 1888. Kipling the journalist assembled his jungle the way a journalist assembles a story, from multiple sources, none of them firsthand, synthesized into a single vivid account that felt more real than reportage. He admitted it. In a letter from around 1895, he confessed, "I have helped myself promiscuously, but at present cannot remember from whose stories I have stolen." The forest Kipling imagined is still there. The Pench Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh is today one of India's most successful project tiger reserves. It is marketed as Kipling Country. Guides take tourists through territories named after Jungle Book characters. The irony is exquisite. India's most successful wildlife conservation narrative is in a park named after a book written by an Englishman in Vermont who had never seen the place. But perhaps that is less ironic than it seems. Kipling's vision of Seoni, built from photographs and borrowed descriptions, was specific enough to make generations of readers care. The forest is protected, in some small part, because a child in Vermont fell in love with the jungle he invented. In February 1867, 2 years after Kipling was born, and 27 years before he published the Jungle Book, a group of hunters in the forests of Bulandshahr, northern India, found something in a cave that they could not explain. Moving with a pack of wolves, walking on all fours, growling. A human child. He was approximately 6 years old. The hunters drove the wolves out with fire and captured the boy. He was taken to a missionary orphanage in Agra, the city of the Taj Mahal. The missionaries baptized him and gave him a name, Sanichar, the Urdu word for Saturday, the day he arrived. Father Earhart documented everything. The boy walked on all fours. He refused cooked food. He sharpened his teeth on bones. He growled and howled. He despised clothing. He could smell food before he saw it, and threw it away if the scent was wrong. For over 20 years, missionaries worked to teach him to walk upright, to eat cooked food, to dress himself, to communicate. He learned to walk. He learned to dress. He developed one human habit that nobody could have predicted. He became an enthusiastic smoker of cigarettes. He never learned a single word of any language. Not one word. In 1895, the year the second Jungle Book was published, Dina Sanichar died of tuberculosis. He was 34 years old. There's one photograph of Dina Sanichar, taken between 1889 and 1894, held in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, in the public domain, available for anyone to see. He looks directly at the camera. His brow is heavy, his jaw unusual. He looks like a man who has spent his life in the wrong world and knows it. Kipling never mentioned Sanichar by name. He never confirmed the connection. But the accounts of wolf children in India circulated in the very missionary and journalistic networks that Kipling inhabited. A journalist as omnivorous as Kipling would have known. The connection is not proven, but this much is certain. The real Mowgli was not a hero. The real Mowgli never defeated the tiger. The real Mowgli died at 34, having learned nothing we would recognize as civilization, having mastered only the mystery of the cigarette. his one recorded moment of tenderness, teaching a younger, feral child to drink from a cup. The Jungle Book is not the story of Dina Sanichar. It is the story of what Rudyard Kipling wished had happened to a boy like Dina Sanichar. The story of a child separated from his family who finds a new one that loves him, who learns the laws of a world that wants him in it, who faces the monster that would destroy him, and wins. It is also the story of what Kipling wished had happened to a boy named Rudyard, sent to the House of Desolation at 5, who faced his own tiger, and survived. In Episode 2, we travel to Tokyo and Rome, to the animation studios of 1989, to discover how this story written in Vermont became the show that defined a generation of Indian children on Sunday mornings in the 1990s.